Welcome guys to your first class in animation. Today we are going to learn the basics of animation. We won't go into it too much. We will just go through. Alright, let's begin. So you must have done a lot in your previous classes and lessons, and so I would not be brushing on any previous lessons you might have learned. I am also very sure that you must have learned some of the shortcuts on navigating the viewport. Alright, what is animation? Animation is simply bringing things to life or making things feel very real. Animation is bringing movement, is bringing realism. So today we are going to learn the first shortcut for moving things, G. I'm very sure we should have learned that already. According to the Z-axis, moving up. According to X-axis, moving sideways. According to Y-axis, moving front or backwards. Why did I say sideways, front or backwards? Because according to this, we've learned that minus Y is front-facing orthographic and Y positive is back-facing orthographic. Just like you see, back orthographic, minus Y is front orthographic, X is right, and minus X is left, Z is top, and minus Z is bottom. Alright, we will start with our first animation. Alright, so the first thing I would love to tell you is we are not animating characters. And what do I mean by we're not animating characters? At the moment, we are just going to deal with 3D meshes, just like these ones. Your plane, your cubes, your circles, your UV sphere, etc. So those are what we are animating today. We're going to learn on how to just move them around. We're not doing anything complex. Alright, so the first thing I would say in starting is having your 3D model and making sure it is prepared. Now we just have a simple cube here, nothing else, it's already prepared for us. But if there were more complex objects like maybe a car, a human mesh, then you would make sure that those objects are prepared and that they are well separated. You would not want your object to be moving in on itself. Example, having a cube and a sphere, and then you want to move the cube and the cube is intersecting with, except you want to do it like that, it is not advisable that your cube and your sphere are not separated. Also, they should be named correctly. I believe it should be named correctly so that you would have an organized space. Now, we're going to just delete this. So I just said today we are just going to be moving things around. Another thing I would say is when you are done separating and preparing your model, in preparation, make sure that you're done. And when I mean done, I mean after animation or during animation. You should not just decide that, okay, I just want my cube to have a larger side. It will affect your animation, and you will see very soon, because if you did that, it could change while you were animating. Do you understand? So yes, please. So if you don't need to have textures, this, I'm very sure you've gone through your viewports. This is your wireframe viewport, your solid mode display, your your shading display, and your render display, what it look like when rendered. So you've gone through all this. You do not need a texture to animate, but you need your model to be complete in terms of sculpturing. Your model needs to be complete in what? Terms of sculpturing. Alright, so as I was saying, Shift A. So you would need to make sure that everything is separated whatever it is that you do not actually need, just like this again, I would ask you to hide it. If it's going to be a car, if it's going to be a human hand, if those things are not being animated, I would ask you to tap H on your keyboard to hide it. Alright, so now we are going into the class. Alright, first of all, I would like to talk about something that you would not normally realize or know. Although if you have been an After Effects user, you would know about it. But if you're using Photoshop, no, you wouldn't know about it. If you're an animator using After Effects, yes, you would know about it. And so it's not obvious. And I would be using simple objects like cubes and spheres, as you have seen, just to illustrate something that's very easy. So now, one thing that we should know about animation is an object always has a center point. They all have center points. These green little dots you see here, this green little dots you see there, I have to move my cursor. This little green dot you see here is a center point. Alright, so as I was saying, this center point is the basis in which it moves. It is the pivot point. I would go into this more in the class later, but if you press rotate, you see the arrow is connected to the center point. The pivot is connected to that pivot. Yes. If it is rotating according to Z, it's rotating according to that center point. That center point, X, that center point, Y, that center point. So it is the point in which it will move. So because this is a simple object, the center point is here, and it's not necessarily what you would want, but oftentimes when you are dealing with other 3D meshes, it is often what it is that you would want. So how would you go about it? You would come here, you would come to set origin to center of mass, or origin to volume. There's actually not much difference between them, but when you set it at either of them, and then you would have this. So the volume or the mass, they actually to me the same thing. So now this can be moved in different ways. Today I'm going to show you some of those ways, and one of them is example. When you want to move, before that, in case what I just showed you now was if you got a mesh from, let's say, because obviously you cannot work alone, if you get it from your, what's the word, from your other department, let's just use that word. If you get it from your fellow department head, and maybe the one who was sculpting sends you a mesh, sends you an object for you to animate, and obviously it's not like this, it has a weird shape, and the center point is not right where it should be. What I just did, where you have to right click and you go to set origin, this fixes it. I would advise you to use volume. You can also use surface. There's no much difference between it. Yes. So now, what about if you want to move something? Now I just showed you how to move, right? What about if you want to move something in a certain way that is not really easy to do, and you want to be fast about it because it's actually not a main action, it's not actually the main thing that you want to show. Example, you just want to show maybe he kicked a box. I kick a box and I just want to show that part. It's not exactly useful. Just want to just show that he kicked the box. What would you do? And when he kicks the box, it is not obvious. The box is just going to slide. Example, G according to X. It's just going to slide. He kicked the box and it just slides. But the box is obviously not going to slide in a straight line. I don't know if you've learned anything. If you have not, learn the 12 principles of animation. If you've not learned it already, learn it. If you've learned it, use it. Always use it when you animate. Learn the 12 principles of animation. The 12 principles of animation. So he kicks the box. Obviously, the box cannot move in a straight line. So if it moves, it can't move in a straight line. And then it has to rotate according to a certain axis. How would you do that? So I'm going to introduce to you something that I don't believe you've done already. I don't believe it has been treated in any of the classes. I would introduce it to you. It is called an empty. So this is it. Now each and every of them they all have different uses, but it does not matter to you now because you just started. So but apparently they all do the same thing actually, but they have their different function that is unique to each of them. Obviously they won't be there, so but we'll just pick anyone. We can pick this. All right, so now we've just brought an empty. Now what is an empty? An empty, just like most of the things you would be using in animation, would not be seen when you render, meaning when you bring it out for visual consumption. Most people won't see it. Just like the rigging bones that you would use to give the animation of a human or animal movement, you won't see it. Most of what will be seen is what the 3D modelers and sculptors have done. So in other words, animators, we are most likely invincible, but we are also very crucial to the pipeline. That's the word I forgot. The pipeline of production in any 3D studio. All right, so now we are going to do something. Normally, it would be easier if we just brought this empty under this cube. It would have been parented easily, but this application does not work like that. In certain applications, it does. So already it's even below. There are two different objects actually. So now we're going to parent this cube to the empty, and although forgetting the cube has to be selected first, although we said the empty is the parent, we do not choose the parent first, we choose the child first. In Blender, in this application called Blender, we choose the child first. In other applications, they might choose the parent first, but always remember, if you're using Blender, you choose the child first. You say, child, go to your parents, not parents, come and take your child. All right, so now we choose the object first, then we press shift and we select the empty, and then we press Ctrl P, and then we parent to object. We set parents to object, and so when we press G and we press rotate, it moves according to where it is going. So now imagine he kicked the box from there. It's not going in a straight line. Let's do it again. So let's just say Kunle comes in, he kicks the box. Do you see that? But had we done it, it would not have been easy like that. So we would normally have just animated, keyframed the empty, and it will work like so. From what we can see now, the empty is a parent. So when we remember when we pressed Ctrl P, it said set parent to object. We're not doing anything right now, but this was object. The last selected thing was the object, and from what you can see, the empty is now a parent, and so this cube is under. It's just a visual representation of what it is that you're doing. Now you can also still move this, just so you know, you can still move it, but if you look closely, there is a dotted line. If you look closely, there is a dotted line there. There is a dotted line following it all the way. You will see it. All right, then I would also want to say, you are not actually what's the word, restricted to just one object. You can have different objects. Parented. Also shift click, then Control P, set object parent. And so now when you rotate according to Z, it moves both of them. Now if we just well, I don't need to show much, but let's just say this was the trash, and Kule walked in and he did not know. He just moved the trash, kicked it away. Alright, so that was just it. Alright, you might be asking, what is this all about? This is not animation. Yes, this is obviously not an animation in of itself, but I'm just bringing this to you just so that you'll be aware of it. You can see it's moving according to around the point of the empty and not its own center point. Now I would love to show you something just so you would know, you understand what I'm doing, what I'm saying. So now let's imagine that my 3D interface, my 3D viewport interface is not what you might be normally used to, but this is how I work because I mostly work in a dark place. So now let's just parent this camera to the empty also. Now imagine you just see what's happening. The camera is moving with the cube, but it's obviously moving around the pivot point of the empty. I don't understand I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but you should but I think you get it. So in case you just want to follow, you want the camera to follow somebody and it's moving. Yeah, so this is animating a camera also. So I think I've done that. An example of this animation I just showed you now could just be, in fact, let's see. Let's just say this was the Earth. Let's just say this was the Earth, and so the moon had to rotate around the Earth. So it is going to be a rotation according to X. And so the moon rotated around the Earth, or the Earth rotated around the sun. So imagine you had modeled a moon, and this is already modeled a Earth. You added your textures, your camera follows the moon. A beautiful animation you would have. I don't know how many of you would love to try it. If you could just do something, even if it's just a little bit, 2 different spheres, you could try to do craters. I'm very sure you've been taught how to model. So you can model anything that looks like a moon, anything that looks like an Earth. I would love to see you use this demonstration as an assignment. I would also do the assignment and send to you, and I would love to see what you guys can bring from it. Alright, so I don't want to spend much of your time, because I believe that you would learn in short cookies. You would also learn in small molecules, so that you will not take more than you can actually chew. So 20 minutes is enough for you to enjoy this morning, afternoon, or evening you're listening to this and watching it. I would love to see your assignments. I'll send the assignment very soon. Yeah, so see you tomorrow. We've come to the end of the class.